High blood pressure is called the silent killer, not because it's dramatic, not because it announces itself with chest-clutching movie-style warnings, but because it doesn't knock. It just walks in quietly, settles into your arteries, and slowly begins rearranging your life, your heart, your kidneys, your brain, while you go about your day completely unaware. But here's what the silence doesn't want you to know. Small daily habits, done with consistency and a little intention, can quietly push it back out. So let's talk about what those habits actually look like. First, a quick foundation, because understanding what you're dealing with changes how seriously you take it. Blood pressure is simply the force your blood exerts against the walls of your arteries as your heart pumps it through your body. Some force is necessary. That's how circulation works. But when that force stays too high, too consistently, it starts doing damage to your artery walls, to your heart, which has to work harder than it should, to your kidneys, which filter your blood and are extremely sensitive to pressure changes, and to your brain, where excessive pressure can lead to stroke. The reason it earns the word silent is that most people with high blood pressure feel nothing unusual. No headaches, no dizziness, no signal that anything is wrong. That's what makes it dangerous. By the time symptoms appear, the damage has often already been building for years. The first habit that genuinely moves a needle is reducing your salt intake, and this one deserves more than the usual passing mention. Sodium causes your body to retain water. More water in your bloodstream means more volume pressing against your artery walls, and more volume means higher pressure. It's a fairly direct relationship. The challenge is that most of the sodium people consume doesn't come from the salt shaker on the table. It comes buried inside processed foods, canned soups, deli meats, bread, sauces, and restaurant meals, where it hides amounts that would surprise most people. The practical shift here isn't about suffering through bland food. It's about cooking more at home, where you control what goes in, reading labels on packaged foods before they go into your cart, and, this is genuinely underrated, tasting your food before automatically reaching for the salt. Revolutionary concept. I know, but most food doesn't need as much as we habitually add. The second habit is building your meals around foods that actively support heart health, and this is where the evidence gets particularly strong. Fruits, vegetables, whole grains, lean proteins, and low-fat dairy form a backbone of what's known as the DASH diet, dietary approaches to stop hypertension, which has been studied extensively and shown to produce meaningful reductions in blood pressure on its own, without medication, in people with mild to moderate hypertension. The key nutrient here is potassium. Potassium and sodium have a balancing relationship inside your body. When potassium goes up, it helps your kidneys excrete more sodium, which eases pressure off your artery walls. Bananas get all the credit, but potassium is also plentiful in sweet potatoes, avocados, beans, leafy greens, and salmon. The goal isn't perfection at every meal. It's a consistent pattern over time that tilts your body's chemistry in the right direction. The third habit is movement, and before eyes start glazing over, this does not require a gym membership, a trainer, or any particular level of athleticism. What research consistently shows is that regular aerobic activity, the kind that gets your heart rate up moderately, strengthens the heart muscle itself. A stronger heart pumps blood more efficiently, which means it doesn't have to push as hard to get the same amount of blood through your arteries. Lower effort, lower pressure. Walking is enough. Light jogging is enough. Swimming, cycling, dancing in your kitchen, even badly, especially badly, all count. 30 minutes most days is a general guidance. But even 3 10-minute walks spread through the day produce real cardiovascular benefit. The only version that doesn't work is the one you don't do. The fourth habit connects directly to that last point. Maintaining a healthy weight, or moving toward one if you're not there yet. Carrying excess weight, particularly around the abdomen, puts additional strain on the heart. It requires more blood supply to reach more tissue, which increases the volume and pressure in your circulatory system. The encouraging thing, and this is worth holding on to, is that the benefit doesn't require dramatic transformation. Losing even 5 to 10% of body weight in people who are overweight has been shown to produce meaningful drops in blood pressure. This is not about chasing an ideal. It's not about extreme dieting or punishing yourself into a different shape. It's about understanding that even modest, sustainable changes in body composition take real pressure off your heart, and that's worth pursuing steadily and without the drama. The fifth habit is managing stress, and this one gets dismissed more often than it should, usually because it sounds soft compared to the others. But the physiology is concrete. When you're under stress, your body releases hormones, adrenaline, cortisol, that cause your heart to beat faster and your blood vessels to narrow temporarily. Blood pressure spikes. In short bursts, that's a normal stress response. The problem is chronic stress, where that spike never fully resolves, where your nervous system stays in a low-grade state of alert day after day. Over time, that pattern causes lasting damage to artery walls. The practical tools here are simple, even if they're not always easy. Deep breathing exercises that activate the parasympathetic nervous system and bring the stress response down. Regular quiet time that isn't filled with screens or noise, reducing the tendency toward overthinking. Though admittedly, if that were easy to turn off, nobody would need a reminder. Even 10 minutes of intentional stillness in a day can begin to shift your baseline stress response in the right direction. The sixth habit involves two things people sometimes find inconvenient to hear: limiting alcohol and quitting smoking. Alcohol, even in moderate amounts consumed regularly, raises blood pressure over time. It's not about the occasional glass at a celebration. It's about the nightly habit that becomes invisible because it's routine. More than 1 to 2 drinks per day, consistently, is enough to push blood pressure in the wrong direction for many people. Smoking is more direct. Every cigarette causes an immediate, temporary spike in blood pressure, and the chemicals in tobacco smoke damage the lining of blood vessels, accelerating the hardening and narrowing of arteries over time. This is usually the point where people become sudden philosophers about quality of life and enjoying their years. And yes, enjoyment matters. But it's worth asking honestly whether a habit is adding to your enjoyment or quietly subtracting from the years in which you get to enjoy anything at all. The seventh habit is sleep, and this one is consistently underestimated as a cardiovascular issue. During sleep, your blood pressure naturally drops. It's one of the body's restoration cycles. When sleep is poor or insufficient, that dip doesn't happen fully, which means your cardiovascular system doesn't get the nightly recovery it needs. Over time, chronic sleep deprivation is associated with higher average blood pressure, increased inflammation, and greater risk of heart disease. 7 to 8 hours is the range most adults need. The quality matters as much as the quantity. Fragmented sleep, sleep apnea, or sleep that's chronically cut short by late-night phone scrolling all undercut the benefit. Yes, being awake at 2 in the morning looking at a screen counts as self-sabotage. The heart knows, even when you convince yourself otherwise. The eighth habit is one that makes all the others meaningful: monitoring your blood pressure regularly. You cannot manage what you don't measure. Home blood pressure monitors are inexpensive, widely available, and easy to use. They take the guesswork out of whether your habits are working and give you real information to bring to your doctor. Clinic checks are valuable, but checking at home gives you a more accurate picture of your everyday baseline, outside the anxiety that a medical setting can sometimes create. The goal is to catch changes early, before they become problems that start acting like they own the place. And then there's a habit that ties everything else together, which is simply not stopping. Consistency is the mechanism by which all of these things actually work. None of them produce results in isolation over 3 days. The body changes slowly, in response to repeated signals over weeks and months. A week of good eating followed by 2 weeks of old patterns produces nothing lasting. But a year of mostly good choices, imperfect human, occasionally interrupted, produces real, measurable change in blood pressure, in heart function, in how you feel, and how long you maintain the health to feel it. You don't undo years of damage in 3 days. You also don't need to. You just need to start, and then keep going. Your heart has been working every single second of your life without asking for a break, without calling in sick, without waiting until it felt motivated. It's been there, beating somewhere around 100,000 times a day, keeping you here. The least we can do is return the favor, not with perfection, but with consistency, with a little more intention about what we eat, how we move, how we sleep, and what we let build up inside us unchecked. If this kind of honest, practical health information is useful to you, subscribe. Share this with someone whose heart could use a reminder. And know that every small step you take today is doing something your arteries will quietly thank you for later.